Welcome to Heaven Awaits. My name is Leigh, and I narrate the near-death experiences of those who have died and have seen the other side. These videos are meant to bring hope to a sometimes hopeless world. If you enjoy these videos, please consider hitting the thumbs up, subscribe, and bell icons to be notified of new content. Doing so is free, and it does help the channel grow. Get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's dive into today's experiences. I hit my head on a bar and fell backward. I felt my heart stop beating and everything went black. I put my head on the ground. It was night, and everything was dark. I blinked my eyes and saw light. My heart began to beat. I got on my knees and my head went back. I was in a lot of pain. I asked God to let me into heaven. A tunnel came into view, and it was smoky. Further up into the tunnel, I saw a light, and it began to clear. I told myself I was glad that I was going up instead of down. I saw my body lying on the ground, but my eyes were level with the grass. It was daylight where I was. I saw an elderly white-haired man sitting in a chair with a boy with long hair sitting next to him on a stool. There were woods in the background. I remember most that the elderly man told me to make peace on earth because I couldn't stay yet. I told them I would see them again, and then I re-entered my body. I was taken to the hospital and got 4 stitches on my forehead. The scoutmaster took me home. My senses were very keen. I began to see into the future. I told him I would be going into the U.S. Marine Corps when I was 18. I told him that they would give me a squad of men in Vietnam and an NVA colonel a squad of men, and we would have a showdown and find out who had the best way of coming up, because I would be coming up with God and Jesus Christ. This event came true as I saw it 6 years later. I joined the Marines and went to Vietnam. The NVA colonel and 14 men with him came down a trail where we ambushed them. We killed the colonel as I had seen 6 years earlier. I lost my memory of the NDE until a few years ago, and it all started coming back. It happened just like I saw in detail that night so long ago, and just what I told my scoutmaster in 1961. That does it for our first experience. Going right into the second one, this one comes from Glenn D. I had become seriously ill with osteomyelitis, contracted through what was eventually determined to be a golf ball-sized polyp located behind my larynx that had ruptured. Little pieces of it attached to my spine, creating penetrating abscesses inward into my upper spine. I was rushed from one hospital to another larger one. Once stabilized, I was scheduled for throat surgery the following day to remove the polyp before attacking the osteomyelitis. I remember surgery prep and entering the OR. The next thing I remember is waking up to a room full of panic-stricken doctors, nurses, and staff. They were all scrambling, moving very quickly about, and all constantly staring back at me with grave looks of concern. A person behind my left side had me propped to about a 45-degree angle. The doctor directly in front of me told me that I was in anaphylactic shock, that one of my lungs had already collapsed, and that they were going to insert a chest tube to try to prevent the other from going down. The doctor was screaming at me, "Breathe! Gosh darn it!" I tried to take a breath, realizing instantly there was no air in my lungs. It was at this point that I instantly realized I was dying and that I'd essentially taken my last breath. Suddenly, I was consumed in a state of extreme peacefulness and a calmness and serenity that made me feel safer than I'd ever felt in my life. I remember recognizing the beginning of a life review, but I only vaguely recall any of its details. The next thing I remember is standing above the room, almost as if I were viewing the medical teams working on my lifeless body from the upper left-hand corner of the back of the room. I could see the flat line on the heart monitor, similar to what I have seen in movies, and I could see and hear everything as they prepared a defibrillator to attempt to revive my heart. Here is the unusual part that I found odd during my NDE. At the time, I was 46 years old and didn't see all that well without my glasses. I remember watching as new cardiac nurses entered the room to assist. These are nurses who I'd had no contact with when I entered the room for surgery. Oddly enough, from my vantage point, I could read the names on their badges, Landers and McCarthy, and I had no glasses on. After approximately 4.5 minutes, they were able to get a heartbeat in my body, after which they hooked me up to life support since I was still unconscious. I realized that I was immobile and that I was essentially stuck to something I could not pull away from. I kept trying with everything I had to free myself from this force, but to no avail. While I was attempting to jar myself loose, I heard the doctor say that I needed to be rushed to ICU. In somewhat of a panic, I watched as they wheeled my body to the door of the room. When the doors to the operating room opened, it revealed this blinding white light that relayed to me the most peaceful, safe feeling I have ever encountered. I remember looking to my right, and my mother, Phyllis, who died exactly 1 year before this event, October 27th, 2001. She was standing there smiling with her left hand outreached. We acknowledged each other. She smiled, and I smiled back, but I was too intent on getting back to trying to free myself, and when I looked back, my mother was gone. As I watched my body being rolled, almost as if in slow motion, into the light, I remember giving one last tug with all my might to free myself from whatever it was that I was stuck to follow my body into that beautiful white light. I wanted to go into it very badly. The last thing I remember is looking down and seeing my right foot finally pull loose and kick away from whatever it was that was holding me. The next thing I remember is waking up 6 days later in the intensive care unit. I was told that I'd been in a coma and kept alive on life support for 6 days. I was livid. Still unable to speak from the throat surgery, I was given a whiteboard on which to write. My first words were, "Please pull the plug. I want to go back." The odd thing is that during my subsequent stay in the unit, I became chummy with some nurses who I shared my experience with. I told them how I recalled reading the names of the 2 cardiac nurses who had come in while I was technically dead. The nurses were able to check the duty roster for the day the event happened, and sure enough, the 2 nurses, Landers and McCarthy, were the 2 who rushed in to assist with my resuscitation. One of the 2 nurses dropped by to see me at one point during my hospital stay. She assured me that my body was virtually lifeless when she got there, and at no point in time did I ever regain consciousness, which would have been necessary for me to be able to read the name on her badge, never mind without my glasses. That does it for today's experience. What would you do if you died and saw 6 years into the future? Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Until next time, stay safe and continue to be blessed.